What's something people don't know about Chris Watts? This question might seem simple, but the answer is far from it. Chris Watts was a man who, on the surface, appeared to have it all: a beautiful family, a stable job, and a seemingly perfect life. But beneath this facade lay a darkness that would soon shock the world. This is gonna blow your mind. The story of Chris Watts is not just a tale of a man who committed an unthinkable crime. It's a chilling reminder of how appearances can be deceiving. How could a man who seemed so loving and devoted turn into a cold-blooded killer, the family man turned murderer? Chris Watts was known in his community as a dedicated father and husband. He was often seen playing with his daughters Bella and Celeste and supporting his wife Shanann in her business ventures. Friends and neighbors described him as quiet, reserved, and always willing to lend a helping hand. But behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. On August 13th, 2018, Chris Watts stood before cameras with tears in his eyes, begging for the safe return of his wife Shanann and their daughters Bella and Celeste. His emotional plea tugged at the heartstrings of many, painting him as a distraught husband and father desperate to find his missing family. But as the days passed, the cracks in his story began to show. The small town of Frederick, Colorado watched in horror as this loving father seemed to live every parent's nightmare. The community rallied together, organizing search parties and vigils, hoping for a miracle. But as the investigation progressed, the truth that emerged was far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. But as the hours turned into days, Chris's story began to unravel. The inconsistencies in his statements raised red flags for the investigators. Why was he so calm? Why did his timeline of events not match up? The police began to dig deeper, and what they found was chilling. Investigators worked tirelessly, piecing together a timeline that didn't quite add up. They reviewed phone records, text messages, and security footage, trying to find any clue that would lead them to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. The more they uncovered, the more it became clear that Chris was hiding something. A neighbor's security camera showed Chris loading something into his truck in the dead of night. This footage was a crucial piece of evidence, contradicting Chris's earlier statements about his activities that night. What was he doing? Where was he going? The police knew they were getting closer to the truth, yet he insisted on his innocence. The search efforts intensified. The community, still holding on to hope, continued to search for any sign of Shanann and the girls. But as the days turned into weeks, hope began to fade and suspicion grew. The community held its collective breath. The once tight-knit town of Frederick was now gripped by fear and uncertainty. How could something so horrific happen in their peaceful community? The answer was about to be revealed. And then, Chris's calm facade crumbled. During a police interrogation, the pressure became too much for him to bear. His demeanor changed and the truth began to spill out. The investigators knew they were on the verge of a breakthrough. During a polygraph test, he finally broke down, confessing to the unthinkable. The polygraph results indicated deception, and Chris knew he couldn't keep up the charade any longer. He admitted to killing Shanann in a fit of rage, but the horror didn't end there. He had killed Shanann in a fit of rage, then coldly smothered his daughters, disposing of their bodies at his work site. The details of his confession were chilling. He described how he had planned the murders, how he had carried out the heinous acts, and how he had tried to cover his tracks. The nation was in shock. Chris Watts was not just a family man. He was a man with a dark, deadly secret. His actions were premeditated, calculated, and devoid of any remorse. The man who had once been seen as a loving father and husband was now revealed to be a monster, an affair, a desire to start anew, and a plan to erase his current life. Chris had been having an affair with a co-worker, and he saw his family as an obstacle to his new life. He believed that by eliminating them, he could start fresh. But his plan was flawed, and his true nature was exposed. His chillingly calm demeanor and premeditated actions shocked the nation, reminding us all that the most horrific betrayals often come from those we trust the most. The case of Chris Watts became a media sensation, with people across the country grappling with the question, how could someone do this to their own family? The story of Chris Watts is a haunting reminder that evil can lurk behind the most ordinary of facades. During his trial, the details of his crimes were laid bare for the world to see. The evidence was overwhelming, and the jury had no doubt about his guilt. Chris Watts was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And sometimes the monsters we fear are the ones we think we know. The Watts family home, once filled with love and laughter, now stands as a grim reminder of the tragedy that unfolded within its walls. The story of Chris Watts serves as a stark warning that evil can hide in plain sight and that the people we trust the most can sometimes be the ones who betray us in the most unimaginable ways. The investigation revealed a series of text messages between Chris and his mistress, painting a picture of a man who was willing to go to any lengths to start a new life. Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were innocent victims of his twisted desires. The community mourned their loss, and the nation watched in disbelief as the details of the case unfolded. Memorials were held for Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, with people from all over the country paying their respects. The outpouring of love and support was a testament to the impact they had on those who knew them. Their lives were tragically cut short, but their memory lives on in the hearts of many. Chris Watts now spends his days in a prison cell, reflecting on the choices that led him to this point. His story is a cautionary tale of how unchecked desires and hidden secrets can lead to devastating consequences. The case of Chris Watts will forever be etched in the annals of true crime history, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can reside within the human soul. Shanann Watts often shared happy moments of her family on social media, showcasing a life filled with love and joy. These posts now serve as a poignant reminder of what was lost. The Watts family seemed perfect on the outside, but the reality was far different. The case of Chris Watts is a stark reminder that we never truly know what goes on behind closed doors. The trial of Chris Watts was a media spectacle, with every detail scrutinized by the public. The reactions in the courtroom ranged from shock to anger to profound sadness. The impact of his actions was felt far and wide, leaving a lasting scar on the community and the nation as a whole. Shanann's family was devastated by the loss of their daughter and granddaughters. Their emotional reactions during the trial were heart-wrenching, a stark contrast to Chris's cold and calculated demeanor. The pain and suffering caused by his actions will never be forgotten. Chris Watts's confession was a turning point in the investigation. The details he revealed were shocking and disturbing, painting a picture of a man who was willing to go to any lengths to achieve his selfish desires. The police interrogation room, where he finally broke down, became the setting for one of the most chilling confessions in true crime history. The Watts family home, once filled with the sounds of laughter and joy, now stands empty and silent. It serves as a haunting reminder of the tragedy that took place within its walls. The community of Frederick, Colorado will never forget the events of August 2018, and the story of Chris Watts will continue to be a cautionary tale for years to come. Chris Watts's sentencing was the final chapter in a case that had captivated the nation. The judge's words were a stark reminder of the gravity of his actions. Life in prison without the possibility of parole was a fitting punishment for a man who had committed such heinous crimes. The story of Chris Watts is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can reside within the human soul and the devastating consequences of unchecked desires and hidden secrets. In loving memory of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste Watts, their lives were tragically cut short, but their memory lives on in the hearts of those who knew and loved them. The story of Chris Watts is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment with our loved ones. May they rest in peace.